My name is Prasad, Managing Director and RVP, India and SARC for Zendesk. And I would like to kick off things today by acknowledging the fact that all of us went through some amount of changes or most amount of changes in the last 6 months. As business leaders, just like yourself, I had to make few decisions for my team and for the company. And I'm sure all of us are doing the same. But I had a slight privilege of having a bunch of insights into what customers of all of us and businesses are going through. And that came through a Zendesk benchmark report that we went through recently. And I would like to take opportunity today and give you a little bit of insights of that. And before we start, it feels that everything has changed, and it also feels nothing has changed. Isn't it? Let's go take a look at what everything has changed. In EdTech especially, the number of customer interactions have surged during the lockdown period, initial lockdown, late March and the beginning of April. Number of students, parents, and the fraternity trying to get onto the platform, embracing into technology. And while there is a surge over the last few months, especially towards the mid-June to end of June, the number of customer interactions are stabilizing it. While there is globally, there is a 24% increase of surge of number of customer tickets during the peak, it's almost 2x of customer interactions. And this in particular graph represents the education, learning, and remote work as sectors. And it's a huge increase during pandemic initially. Continuing, I think WhatsApp as globally and also in India is one of the favorite channel that either you or me, and I'm sure all of us or most of us use to communicate to family, friends. And it also looks like it's the most preferred channel by your customers to engage with you. Either it could be a student, or it could be a parent, or it could be teachers. All of them started communicating to businesses over WhatsApp. And that amounts to about an increase of 135% of growth over the last 5-6 months on WhatsApp alone. While the other channels, like traditional channels, like calls, which has been very steady, and in fact, a lot of businesses are trying to get off from calls and trying to use alternative technologies to engage customers where there's a better response rates and also better preference of customer, like WhatsApp or even social messaging channels. And we see a online chat is also used as a most preferred channel of solving customer problems in these pandemic times. But WhatsApp is the number one trusted source, looks like, for all of us to rely to talk to business. Now, EDUTECH, a sector especially seen, I think, a great success on handling a huge surge of growth. Probably it's technology that education, it's built on. And what we've seen, actually, the self-service ratios are relatively quite high in EDUTECH, remote learning, and stuff like that. And you see that 149% of self-service reviews, and when you compare to the customer growth, tickets, if you want to call it as 24%, that means most customer requests are not even reaching into the support agents. It's all getting self-service through help center articles and stuff like that you put it onto your website, which is phenomenal from a tech adoption point of view and ticket deflection point of view for most of us in the businesses. But at the same time, if you hear all of this concept, while there is a range of number of customer interactions and evolving of different technologies to embrace customer conversations and providing that great experience, but few things have not changed. I think even these pandemic times, I think customers are trying to talk to or engage in businesses who are trustworthy, who establishes and have a right support channels to engage with them. And more importantly, your employees, all of our employees are looking to empower them to have a better engaged conversation with customers. And those two, in essence, that is basically customer wants to hear you and they want you to be engaging in the most preferred channel, and employees to be empowering them to serve customers, are two fundamental things have not changed. Pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, I don't think it'll change anytime in the future, because those are two key foundations for really driving a great customer experience. Now, let me give you a quick example of where we have seen this is really playing a big thing. Let me introduce Khan Academy, created by Sal Khan back in 2008. It's a non-profit organization, offering free education in maths, science, and humanities. During the pandemic, there is a huge surge of course, volume of interaction that gone up to Khan Academy. But before that, just giving you a scale, got about 20 million active users on Khan Academy. That's quite a bit. And during the pandemic, when COVID really hit, there is almost close to 3x increase in traffic to the websites and the apps. There is 13x increase of interactions and support tickets from parents, especially who are trying to get education and continue to educate the children and keep the learning phase on. Third, about 8x increase in support interactions from teachers. That's a humongous volume. And you look at average growth that I've talked about at the beginning, it's about average is 2x, but Khan Academy is seen close to 13x and 8x increase from parents and teachers respectively. That's a phenomenal increase. How did Khan Academy really went ahead and solve this problem? Oh, sorry. What really worked for Khan Academy? I think number one, automated triage. I think prioritizing support where it is and who needs it urgently, and really helping them. Let me give you an example. I think one of the things that we had a privilege of talking to Khan Academy, and what we understood that the way they triage the tickets and the support requests is that anybody, a parent or a teacher, or a student who are new to Khan Academy, when they specify that, it's automatically triaged to a important or urgent request. And it doesn't mean that the rest of it's not urgent. It's just how you prioritize on given resources at a given time. I think that's a very smart thing to do. Second, when you do automated triage and prioritizing support for Khan Academy, it's actually driven great CSAT, 92%. And in fact, response times have doubled because people who are comfortable and leveraged to use of Khan Academy continues to use it. But at the same time, the new people who requires a lot of support and hand-holding. And remember, some of the parents and teachers who are really not very used to working on technology platforms and teaching over technology platform, or what we call e-learning. They're still looking at the traditional way of teaching. And for them to give them the right support when they read it, I think it really drives a great customer support, a great technique and a strategy adopted by Khan Academy. Number two, and what we have seen, the self-service ratio, which is I think is the highest customer satisfaction driver across all industries, irrespective of tech and all other industries. It is the way to help your customers. The best way to help your customers is not to help them. Is actually providing the requisite support when they need it, how they need it, and however they want to consume. And that's through self-service. You could do it by two phases. I think Khan Academy did it in two-pronged approach. I want to give you that insight. Number one, of course, have some great smart help center on the website, on the mobile app for users to really consume data and use that as driving factor to help customers. And second, I think second approach is being very smart. It really have an engaged community. So Khan Academy has such a wonderful engaged community. Every support request that was supposed to be raised, in fact, did not get raised because if you go to look at engaged community on Khan Academy, there are more community are going and helping the newbies that are getting onto the platform. It is the best way of scaling a business and leveraging a community to really solve the problem. If I got some help and I know how to solve the problem and I can help my peer and somebody who's looking for the help, it's brilliant. And that's basically having engaged community. And what it driven? 38 to 1% ratio of community views were support tickets. Imagine the amount of ticket deflection that Khan Academy could do with this two-pronged approach and self-service. Third, very important, during this pandemic, when there is even otherwise also, something that Khan Academy really thrives on is really leveraging technology to collaborate better. Now, imagine I talked about the community of engaged community. If there is a request that come in, which is technology in nature, most of the support users or maybe community users cannot help address that. That can be routed and automatically created and integrated with Slack, and it opens a Slack group communication, and then you can really work on that. Or it could be Jira integration for even more technical queries and engineering queries. I think these two smart use of integrations to the grassroots level really help to drive a better customer interaction and drive a great collaboration to drive great outcomes of CX. Now, That's about the Khan Academy, but I'm sure each one of you would be driving some amount of customer connect and I'm sure driving experience. Remember, these times are very tough, but the smartest businesses are the ones who keeps their heads down and keeps looking out and seeing how to solve the problem. Remember the three key pillars of CX. Number one is trust. The trust should drive loyalty, and the loyalty of customers should drive evangelism. So if you take care of these three pillars of when you're designing and defining customer experience, I think you have done a great deed of establishing customer loyalty, and that would drive great revenue and also evangelism. With that, if you want us to connect, if you want to connect with Zendesk, we are available on all social platforms. You can just give us on a Twitter at the rate of Zendesk, or on LinkedIn, or on Facebook, or even Instagram. Connect with us, and we're more than happy to share this detailed report with you on across industries and especially EdTech view. And some of these insights are applicable to in India. So more than happy to share those insights with you. With that, I just want to say thank you for a patient listening, and I'm hopeful that this has actually helped you to find insights on how do you drive a better CX for your customers and leverage what Khan Academy did from some of the basics of principles of ticket deflection and driving a great CX and a great CSAT. Thank you very much, and look forward to keep talking to you on entire day today on EdTech Conference 2020 today. Over to you, Javesha.
Thank you, Mr. Prasad, for sharing such valuable insights with us today. We now move on to the fireside chat. Joining Mr. Prasad, we have Ms. Divya Gokulnath, co-founder at Byju's. Welcome, Ms. Gokulnath. I would now request Mr. Prasad to take over.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. Welcome, Divya. How are you doing today? A lovely morning in Bangalore.
Yes, it is.
Awesome. And Divya, I'm sure it's a busy day and schedule for you at Byju's with the amount of growth and explosion that we have been seeing, the kind of love I'm sure that you're seeing from customers. Before I get started, I wanted to give you a bit of view of my association with Byju's. Being a Bangalorean, I've seen back in about 10 years ago or even before, it's very popular for somebody who used to go for competitive exams. And I've seen my friends and their circles who used to go to Byju's and really get on to be competitive. From there, in the last 10 years, and the way the company has evolved and really creating this beautiful, phenomenal EdTech platform. And I'm your customer too on Byju's, by the way. And both my daughters actually use Byju's to really get a good view. And I was sharing with somebody, why is it important for me? And why do you think that, it's always a battle between the minds of your family, somebody who thinks about traditional tutoring is better, and somebody like me who thinks that picture memory is far better than rudimentary by harding and stuff like that. And when I personally looked at about 5 years ago to evaluate whether it's the right thing for my kid, and when I looked at sample videos, it felt that it is the best way to teach somebody. You're not mugging up, you're actually remembering and teaching the concepts, which goes deep in minds and brains of people and kids. And these kids become smarter over the day. So I want to thank you and the rest of the co-founders by creating such a beautiful platform, which is revolutionizing EdTech in India and all across, world.
Thank you. Actually, I think, our biggest testimony is parents like you. And I think where we are today is largely because of our students, of their parents who continue to trust us. Otherwise, see, there is no scope for a very short-term goal kind of thing, and especially when you're in a segment like education, right? If you have to stay relevant even after 10 years, 20 years, you really need to care about the product that you create, and you need to care about the people who are using your application. So I think that's one thing which we've always kept. Children are always in the center of our focus, and we've always been on the side of the user. And I think whether it's now, whether it's 5 years back, 7 years back, when we started with a completely offline model, and today we're completely online. So we've positively disrupted ourselves along the way, but we've never really changed from our mission of making students love learning. That stays even today.
Oh, beautiful, Divya. In fact, I think kind of averted my next thought of asking you: is there a secret recipe that you could share with I'm sure all other entrepreneurs in EdTech and beyond who's looking forward to getting some tips? Is there one secret recipe or a secret formula for this great success that you've been seeing?
So uh, it cannot be one thing. A lot of things have to come together. So maybe I can start by saying we've always been very aspirational. We've always been thinking big. We've looked at ways to positively disrupt ourselves. And if you look at our journey till date, you will see that we are an extremely agile organization. We've not been afraid to redefine our own business models, strategies to create an even bigger impact. So while we've been fixated on our mission, we've always been flexible in execution. So like I started, I said that we were 100% service. Today we are 100% product, with 100% online with the launch of our learning app. When you actually came on, you're probably one of our earliest adopters, and I'm so happy and so proud. And since the app launch in 2015, like your children, we've helped millions of students embrace a new way of learning. Right? This is something where there is no rule book. There's no cut copy paste model. This is pure. This is completely developed in India. It's completely developed by us, by with the help of first principles. So I think that really helps. And I think it's also very easy to start a mission driven company, especially in a sector like education, which is close to all of us, because it's the best way to make it big, right, for most of us, especially in developing countries like ours. But I think it's very important to even remain mission driven. And we've spent close to a decade, like you mentioned, teaching, learning, growing. We moved from classrooms, stadiums, virtual classes, personalized, blended, experiential learning, and what more, like everything more which will benefit the student. So I think what's really worked is that during this entire journey, the core founding team of Byju's, the team has stayed together. And that common thread of passion, if it binds the team on top, that kind of drives the sense of intrapreneurship throughout the organization. And I think that's how, and always being on a continuous pursuit to make things better, right? There is no room for complacency. So we can't say we're successful, then the game is over. So every day, innovating, motivating ourselves, and trying to do better each and every day. I think that's together maybe the secret recipe or secret sauce.
Oh, beautiful, Divya. I really like the way you said it. I think when you're the passion that binds you guys together, and again, you want to go out and create a new wave of things that was not there, existed. You're finding a new way to do it. You're finding a way to solve a problem. You created a identified a white space, found passionate, people who are in the similar minded and really driving this change. And lovely to hear that. I'm sure in this journey of last 10 plus years since this journey has begun, and I'm sure, was there any point that you felt things are not just working out, and probably you or maybe the team would have come across the challenge, but is there any point where you felt that, oh, this is something that you're trying but not working out?
See, any startup, right? We read all about the successes, but to have one big win, you need to have 10 small failures. And it's important that those failures are small, right? And how do you ensure that they're small? It's when you are very fast from idea to execution. So I think it's important to plan, but it's equally important to execute. So we of course had our set of challenges, because like I said, this isn't something that you can cut, copy, paste. This is something that we have built with first principles. Maybe so many bumps along the way, especially as a startup, as a set of entrepreneurs. It's so important to be resilient, to be passionate, and you actually don't define your passion, right? You let passion define you. So all of these things, I think, come together. And no matter what challenge it is, be it how do you take your content to so many places, be it how do you create this high quality content which keeps students not just engaged but is also effective. All of these things, everything, because there's so many ways to do something, taking decisions at the right point of time. I think all of these things come together. And then when it comes together, and when there are a group of people or so, not just one, right? This cannot happen with just one person or two people there. If the entire team strongly believes in what you're doing, I think that's when challenges don't look like hills, they start looking like bumps, and then you go over them, and when you jump even higher.
Oh wow, really like it. In fact, it said, right, you go, if you have to fail faster, but failure is just a stepping stone towards the success. And if you keep trying new, there is a high chance and high probability that you'll fail. But the way you said it, let it look like a bump rather than let it look at like, oh, it's a beautiful way of putting together. And I can really see the passion really coming out. But just moving from the way the journey has been, and I'm sure in the last 6 months, in personally, professionally, it's been very different and things looks changed for you at Byju's due to COVID. Would you want to share some experience both for for our audience today?
Yeah. So maybe I can just start by stating two very simple numbers. We're all math people here in the company, very number driven, paranoid about numbers. So in the first 4 years since we launched the app, we got 40 million students on our learning app. And just in the last 5 months, we got 30 million more. So I think what uh, COVID has done, as unfortunate as the situation has been, is it's put edtech in the limelight. Because overnight we've seen all stakeholders move online. So coming to Byju's, what we did is initially we made our learning app completely free. When schools shut down, I think UNESCO reports actually mentioned that 1.3 billion kids are out of school, right? So that was the time when we immediately made our app completely free. The second thing we did is that we realized that students are missing out on the regularity that school provides, where children can come at a specific time and learn each day from their teacher. So we launched free live classes on our platform, and I think all the teams pulled that together and rolled it out in absolutely no time at all. So there were major features getting rolled out for the company. So I think we were one of those companies which worked overtime, and for the first time we were all working from home, but even though we were apart, we were still together. And it was initially tough, but then when I think when all the teams realize that the kind of responsibility they have in helping students continue learning, they pull up their socks, and then they all come up, and they've done a fabulous job. So many multiple releases, not just the live classes which kind of wanted to help students continue learning. We also launched the app in multiple regional languages, so that students can now learn in their mother tongue. Most of the major regional languages is what we have. We launched the product in history, civics, geography, which is social studies. So now we also have more subjects, so students can actually prepare for many more things, not just math and science, which we initially had. And I think it's very what did not happen actually in the last few decades, we saw it happen in the last few months, and I think a lot of people in education would testify for that. And we're seeing big behavioral shifts in all stakeholders, be it parents who are now accepting the new format of learning online, students who are realizing how nice it is for them, because now everybody has a front row seat, and there are a lot of benefits of online learning. A lot of subjects can be taught online in a more effective manner compared to offline. And I think teachers who are now getting even better prepared to adopt to online learning methods and understanding how useful it is, and institutions, even schools, who are turning online and are running their programs online. So all stakeholders in fact have seen the benefit of online learning. And I think if you ask me, while the number of students who came on our platform is a good number to show that there is a lot of traction towards online learning, I think a more important number to track is engagement.
Yep.
We used to see about 70 minutes of engagement per session prior to COVID, but after the lockdown, it has gone up to 100 minutes per day. And I think what's more important, that students are coming almost every day to learn. Now, you can't force that behavior. Students need to like to do it if they have to take up the initiative and learn on their own. So I think I just want to summarize by saying, I think though technology in education has been there for years, because of the current crisis, I think everyone's getting introduced to the benefits of online learning. While the future of learning, I don't believe is going to be 100% online. I think it's going to be a blended model where the best of both the worlds, online and offline, coming together, because there are a lot of things you can't teach children, especially K-12 kids in the online world, like social skills like empathy or sports skills. All of these, you need to have people with you. It's always a bonus. So yeah, so I think the future of learning, even though we've online learning is in the spotlight, the future of learning is going to be blended.
Oh, that's fantastic. Divya, one thing that I've seen personally in the last 6 months too, uh, we all thought, what would happen with education? There's academic is going to be would that be waste? What happens to learning? And the kids have to constantly learn. And what Byju's has really brought to most homes or all homes across India, and I'm sure other markets that you operate, it made education fun. Learning can be fun. It doesn't need to be tedious and stuff like that. But also, I think the opportunity, and I'm sure Baiju had, and I think it's a significant impact you had it on the community of teachers. Is there anything in particular that you worked in institutions or boards and different organizations across in India to make this as future of India? Because I know you mentioned about Blend. Is there anything that Byju's is working, which probably you could share, maybe whatever you could share, to make this as a continuous learning process over a period of time?
Yeah, so when it comes to institutions, I think there is a lot of scope to do so many things, because what we specialize in is the way online learning is important, and how this can be used. So while our product today is completely for self learning, when a child is learning at home, there is a lot of scope to use this in school itself. It's early days, but we've started looking at ways in which we can empower schools further to help them also move online, transition seamlessly. But still early days to comment on something concrete. But this is something, it's not just about Byju's. I think there is a lot of scope in edtech overall, right? This is the best time to start up, and to start up in edtech, because there is, like you rightly said, there is so much scope to make institutions come online, teachers teach better, students learn better. So I think this is the time and age where we can and I think the companies that will stand out are those who don't just digitize learning, but those who keep that quality in mind, because you will see like a multitude of people wanting to start up, trying to start up in this space. And I think what will differentiate then is the kind of quality which is being offered, be it content or be it the kind of technology which is going into it.
Yeah, and I think rightly so. And you made one more point about how the transformation occurred at the pace at which happened, especially in the traditional IT world, if you want to call it as a transformation, and other IT tech world. Um, some of the projects of ITs used to run for transformation processes run for 18, 24 months and 1 year and stuff like that. Long drawn transformation projects. People had BCPs, business continuity plans. In fact, all of them have been tested. And there's a beautiful WhatsApp forward that was roaming around in, I think, in April, May. What really impacted transformation? Is it cloud? Is it tech? Is it that? But I think it looks like COVID is the transformation agent. It really transformed not just one industry; it transformed all industries. Time to acceleration becomes very key. I think I've seen that you really driving that and being in the change agent, because I think you are already on the journey path. But I'm sure with this spike of huge subscriber base in the last 6 months, all of that would have created some kind of operational challenges to really support such a huge volume. And it's maybe keen to understand, is there anything that you could share on how really you embarked into the growth journey? I think now in the last 6 months, especially the spike, what is the secret recipe of Byju's really still providing that great company reach, right? And for customers, which is parents, teachers, and students.
Yeah, and I think for any customer focused company, it's very easy if you know what your priorities are. Don't let your priorities change. I think even though there was a surge in the number of students, there was obviously a huge traction on the app. But I think if you always keep user experience in mind, if you keep student experience as the core focus in mind always, and you don't waver from that, I think that's when you try to make everything work around making that one thing happen, right? So that is why the reason why we launched live classes was keeping student experience in mind, what they need the most at that point, what is relevant at that point of time. Because if you ask anybody 3 years ago, 4 years ago, what will you be doing today, nobody would have got the answer right. COVID has changed
Yes.
all that for all of us. So I think it's about and it's about, I think why it kind of worked is we are not we plan. Okay, of course we plan, and I think it's as important as you have a life goal. It's important to have a weekly goal and even a daily goal, because then what happens? Idea to execution becomes very fast. So it's not that if we had to plan, and like you said, some companies took 18 months, 24 months to do releases. If you have to plan that far, it won't be relevant when you release it. So I think being of relevance and doing things in a timely manner really helps, because be it the launch of the live classes, be it the addition of different subjects, be it the addition of multiple languages, all of these are relevant, more so relevant in a time like this, and more so relevant for students, keeping the focus of students in mind. So I think that's what has kind of worked, and it definitely helps to have a very strong team who also believes in the same mission. Like I said, when you asked me initially, I think that's actually the core strength. targets, and if everybody is aligned on the mission, and it trickles down to each and every level in the organization. So I think both of these things come together. So no matter what challenge is there, and operationally, yes, because we're all working from home for the first time, there are a lot of things we're doing for the first time, but we've always been core education using technology as an enabler. That hasn't changed, be it the last 6 months, be it the last 6 years. So I think that's how we've managed to be rooted and take whatever challenges we've had heads on.
Wonderful. I'm sure, like most organizations, Byju's also would have had all employees working from home. Being one of the co-founder and a leadership role, curious to understand, are there any things that Byju's have done engaging employees? Because engaged employees is very important to manage your customers end of the day. Anything that you could share on how you went on the journey of engaging employees?
Yeah, and I think that's very, very important, right? Now, if you look at what COVID has done to the workplace, it's transformed it. This is the first time I think we can get into the actual lives of people who work for you, because there are so many moments when there were so many times when you won't even know, say, the husband or the wife of somebody who is working with you. And but this is an opportunity to get to know people, get to know families. And I think it's made it's the COVID has made, and working at home has made the whole concept of the workplace more personal for all of us. So I think we've seen that happen. And but the kind of the sense of belonging which an office brings, it's different, because you don't just discuss work when you're in office. You end up having a lot of good time, you discuss a lot of other things with your colleagues, and all of that is essential for the overall development and enjoyment of that's the beauty of the workplace. So I think if that is getting integrated into even the online meetings, then it's good. So we've done a bunch of those things. Different teams execute it in different ways, but we've had we do a lot of employee engagement activities. We do almost 4 every month, be it workshops, online workshops, be it stand-up comedy events, be it addressals by the CEO. And I think that this is just probably the only way in which we could have addressed all our family, our Byju's family at one go. So I think we've started understanding how it's useful even for us, not just for learning, but also for growing as a company. It's done that. So if you ask me, I would just like to summarize by saying, one, because it brings about the personal aspect of an employee to work. You get to be so much more part of their family because they're at home. You get to understand them, because small rewards and recognitions programs, if you have the mother or the father being present, this is possible now, right, where you can reward them online. So these are things where you can bring proud parents onto the screen and give the virtual award. Even though it's virtual, you can give it in front of them. So there's small things that every company can do and adopt, which we also kind of started doing, where we used the fact, or we leveraged on the fact, that even working from home is a big advantage, because employees can actually bring their best of themselves and their natural environment to work.
Divya, again, I think maybe the philosophical similarities between Zendesk and Byju's as a companies. I think we also at Zendesk done a ton of things, and we continues to do on employee engagement. And in the recent survey on the employees, then one of the things that our employees said is rewards matter, recognition matter, and da da da. And we said, what does really matter in this time? The topmost thing that being called out by all our employees, that recognition. That is still pays so much higher than the actual reward in a rupee or a dollar term, which is materialistic versus a pat on the back. And I think you went one step ahead and actually figuring out if you can bring in the family and say, what, you guys are really helping us, allowing your our employee to work efficiently and a place at home to continue to drive for our business and as well as for customers. I think that's immense, and I probably will take your permission and use a little bit of that actually within our Zendesk too. I think
Of course.
I think it's a great engagement technique, but at the same time, managers, leaders are finding difficult to find collaboration. First few months, I think it's been a little bit of honeymoon period. I think we have seen everybody started enjoying work from home, productivity is going up, travel time is cut down, right? So everybody's in Bangalore, people save 2 hours straight away, morning 1 hour, evening 1 hour. But now people started missing the colleagues. People started missing that chai time, or a break time conversation or coffee break that you want to talk about topics which is beyond on the
Work.
agenda. Yeah, exactly. I think as a companies and all of us need to evolve in finding ways to engage our employees and find collaboration techniques. I think, again, very rightly so. I'm going to ask you a little bit differently. During this time, of course, the volumes of requests would have gone up. You would have had certain way of engaging your teachers and parents and stuff like that. What we have seen, Divya, companies of edtech companies across the globe, uh, usage of WhatsApp has gone off. Some of them not leveraged it, now embarking into the journey of leveraging and having that WhatsApp as a channel to have a communication with parents or students. Want to get your thoughts. I know it's a slightly tick maybe, but I want to get your thoughts on providing CX. Is any trends that you've seen on how customers engaging and preferred channels?
Yeah, so I think WhatsApp is more a personal channel now, because I think SMSs have gotten highly flooded.
Yeah,
But we've also seen very good uh, reaction rates on email. So if you ask me, it's a blend of all the three, which would work. Now it depends on what you're talking about. Now, if it's a reminder for a class, so WhatsApp would work wonders, because a parent would be on WhatsApp today. All of us are now. SMS, like I said, it's crowded now. It's kind of
yeah,
crowded, right? Compared to and emails can bring about in a very creative manner. It can engage with your student and your parents. So I think it's about long format versus short format. What is it that you're trying to communicate? How much do you want to communicate? Is it information? Is it is it probably explanation of a feature? So depending on the type of information that you want to give across, I think companies need to use the channels accordingly, and then take and then make the best decision on what they want to do, because using everything doesn't make sense. I think it's about
yeah.
what type of message you want to give out, and then deciding which channel you want to go ahead with.
Yeah, define the user journey, find what experience you want to provide, and then map the channel rather than just put one thing and apply it all. It doesn't work. Makes sense completely. Again, another thing that I'm seeing from last few minutes that I've been talking to you, seems to be highly passionate about making a change and passionate about customer. And do you think that driving better CX drives better growth? I know you like numbers, so I'm not going to ask you to put the numbers, but do you think, pragmatically speaking, a better CX, better growth, revenue numbers?
Definitely, right? So even though we have a lot of numbers that we track, be it our year-on-year growth, we've been growing at over 100% year-on-year from the time that we launched the app, and we've been continuously increasing our TAM and all of that. But then two numbers that we're actually paranoid about is engagement and effectiveness, and both are centered around customer experience. So, like effectiveness, we measure with the help of renewal rates. So
Right.
and that is at 85%, which means that even though you see,
Wow.
and you here, the user is different, the purchaser is different. Now, unless there is effectiveness, the parent is not going to invest in the product again and again and again. So I think being paranoid about the right kind of numbers will really help. And I think we are very very particular about offering the best experience to our students, and customer experience will always remain our number one priority. It should, whether it's pre, during, or post pandemic, and we have big teams in house taking care of that. So I think, and you see, in today's digital world, digital day and age, concerns uh, can get addressed immediately. It's a big boon, because the awareness, you have enough tools to be aware immediately. Most of the social media channels can tell you immediately if something's going wrong, but that also is something that you have to be careful about, because the detractor's voice is so much more amplified today in media. So there is no room there is no room for any complacency here. You have to put the customer in the center of your focus. And I think it's helpful also, because and entrepreneurs who want to can resolve issues immediately. And when you're starting up and you scale up this fast, of course there will be mistakes that every startup will make, but it's important to learn quickly from it and improve. So you're getting feedback immediately. I think that's the biggest advantage in today's digital day and age. And so I think it's like, there is no short term optics here. We are all here for to be relevant after a long time, in the next, even after 10 years. So when we are here for a longer run, we will make sure that what matters the most is something that we take care of the most. And we also track our user NPS. internally and externally. I'm very happy to say that in the most recent third-party research, our paid user NPS is at 76, which is very, very high. Yeah, so this is, so like I said, right, these are the numbers which matter. And I think if a company tracks the numbers which matters, like NPS, like your year-on-year renewal, like retention, and like engagement. So these, if a company tracks, I think things will go well.
Brilliant. I also wanted to tell you that there are a bunch of questions being pouring up from I'm sure people listening in. I have a couple more, and then we'll take some time permits. I'll take a couple of questions also. From your perspective, what is the biggest opportunity that lies in front of EdTech market? I think it's a huge market. It's evolved over a period of time. So transformation is done. But what do you think is the biggest opportunity for EdTech in the future?
I think the biggest opportunity is in multiple places, not just one. Of course, it will be because of the number of students. We have a big school going population in the world. I think the biggest opportunity will still be in helping students learn better, helping them fall in love with learning, helping them becoming self motivated learners. Because, see, the point is, what we need in the future is not a well filled mind. What we need is a well formed mind. Reason being that 65% of our primary year students do not know which job they're going to work in the future. So I think it's critical that they get the right kind of education, and maybe we have to redefine the whole meaning of literacy from just meaning that it's about reading and writing to being able to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So there is a lot of scope to help students learn better, and I think that should be the primary focus, especially in a very young country like ours, where the average age is 29 years. So with such a good high demographic dividend, I think there is so much we can do and capitalize on. But it's also a double-edged sword, because if you have to provide them with the right kind of education, because an unemployable youth is nothing but a recipe for disaster. So that being said, I think a focus on students is, and there's so much more that can be done there and I think a lot of government is also bringing in a lot of changes, even with the NEP. There's a focus on critical learning. There is a lot of focus on all-round development. There is focus on future skills like coding and all of that. So I think that is going to be one major area in EdTech, and it will remain. And apart from that, like I think I mentioned initially, there is a lot of scope to help teachers teach better online. There is a lot of scope to help institutions go online seamlessly. So and of course parents, the other stakeholder, who are now being such a part of the students' learning journey, because all of us are at home with our kids. We see how learning happens. We see how beneficial it is. Most of the schools are online. Most of the tuitions are online. So I think this is the time and space where, if somebody wants to create an impact in EdTech, and they strongly believe in what they're trying to do, and it's addressing a need, I think there is a lot that can be done.
Brilliant. Question. I want to take a couple of questions from the audience too. Actually, Divya, they're pouring, but I'll be picking one of the two. One of the question is, how do you ensure the content that is well absorbed by students? And I think you mentioned it on the engagement ratios. Anything that you would like to throw a little more light on content being absorbed by students?
Yeah, so I think I can definitely talk about that, because I'm a teacher myself, and even when we launched the app, I've been teaching since day one, and today I'm also teaching on the live classes, the things that the program called Byju's classes, which we launched on our platform. So I think when and I think it revolves around the teacher who's taking the class. While we have a 2,000 member research and development team who is behind the way in which content is made both engaging and effective, having a teacher who's very passionate about teaching the student, and I think if you ask your daughters also, they will tell you they love the teachers who teach them, right? So I think having the right kind of teachers who can engage the student, and it's not a one person show, right? Like I said, there are 2,000 people. So and bringing that teaching to life with the help of technology, using a lot of animations, using a lot of interactivity, all the same time making sure that you're teaching in in the most effective manner. I think that is when you can ensure that the content has both substance and it has style, both.
Brilliant. Divya, with that, I know we are by the hour and top of the hour. I just want to thank you for such patiently answering all those questions and giving your thoughts. And it's very incredible to see companies like Byju's, Indian-born company, unicorn, and going into $1 billion and beyond. And I think it's the key mantra that I've seen, education for all, and really revolutionizing that trend. Thank you for what you're doing at Byju's. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. So nice talking to you. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
you.
Over to you, Jivesha.
That was indeed an insightful discussion full of key learnings to take home. Thank you, Mr. Prasad and Ms. Gokulnath, for taking time out to join us today. I would also like to thank our valued partners, Zendesk, Amazon Web Services, Dell Technologies, PayPal, Lead Squared, and ReadSeer. We'll be right back after a short 10-minute break. Please visit the halls and check